This week on DineDrinkCLE, the podcast. They're one of those snacks where it feels like they should be illegal almost, because you can't just sit down and have like one or two. Like, it literally is impossible. Am I wrong? Is that just me?
No, Josh,
Josh wants a sidetrack. Josh wants Uber Eats to block him from the app because he can't stop ordering on Uber Eats, and he deletes the app and he keeps re-downloading it, and he thinks he spent $1,000 in like 6 weeks.
There's not a lie that's been said here. I'm not proud of it.
We went to a farm and met some of the pasture-raised turkey.
One of them really liked Alex and was chasing her around. Every time she'd move, it would just go running over to her.
Tell me you have video.
Yeah. So he's trying to make the Tuesday before Thanksgiving dedicated as Mealsgiving. And so the inaugural Mealsgiving will be November 26th. But the whole idea is, whether you're a huge restaurant or an individual person, like, to connect with people by giving food.
I'm Josh Duke.
And I'm Alex Darus.
And you're either watching or listening to DineDrinkCLE, the podcast, where each and every week we are joined by Cleveland's best and brightest food experts, insiders, and influencers talking all things food and drink here in the Northeast Ohio area. What are we talking about today, Alex?
Lots to talk about today. Thanksgiving is coming up, arguably the biggest food holiday. So we're going to be talking turkey.
There is no argument, but yes.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. But we're going to be talking turkey and some charitable kind of efforts going on in the greater Cleveland food community, as well as stopping in and chatting with Chakerian about some classic candies ahead of the holiday season. So
sounds delicious as always. But first up, we got Paris Wolfe here to talk turkey to us. Welcome, Paris.
Hey, Josh. Hey, Alex.
So you and we went to a farm and met some of the pasture-raised turkeys, and I think you, the past couple years, have kind of written a few stories about getting a pasture-raised turkey to put on your Thanksgiving table instead of a grocery store bird. So
yes.
What can you tell us about what is a pasture-raised turkey and what's the deal with?
Okay, pasture-raised turkeys are turkeys that have been raised on the farm, and they've been allowed out into the pasture to graze, where they eat grains and seeds and even small lizards and insects and things that turkeys naturally eat. They're not vegetarian fed. That's not a good thing for a turkey. It's natural for them to have a varied diet.
Yeah, like worms and stuff.
Yeah. So they eat what they should eat, and they create, the muscle tone that they should have for moving around. And they are often sold fresh, not frozen. After they are harvested, and usually when you buy them from a local farm, they're harvested the weekend before Thanksgiving, so they're very fresh.
Yeah.
Sorry, when you say harvested, what do you mean?
Killed.
Oh.
It's a nicer way.
They killed them and plucked the feathers off.
And on that note, you started this off saying, like, we met some pasture-raised turkeys. I'm like, what?
No, we met the turkeys.
Yeah, they were running around in the field.
I don't want to meet my food.
They were chasing me.
One of them really liked Alex and was chasing her around. Every time she'd move, it would just go running over to her.
Tell me you have video.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we actually do.
Sorry. Brief note. If you're watching this, you may be missing out on some cool video that I might play right now. Go to YouTube, watch the podcast there if you want to see it.
Whatever we were, us running around the farm. But I think some kind of big talk with this is, you go to the grocery store and you see a turkey, 20-pound turkey for not even
for $25.
Yeah, literally. And then you go to maybe a farm store or a butcher shop and you see a turkey and it's
closer to 75 or 100.
Yeah, like $9 a pound. So why would you encourage people? I think you wrote a story, you got a lot of good insight from local foodies and chefs, but why in general do you think it's worth it to buy?
I buy the farm-raised pasture turkey for a number of reasons. I know some of the farmers I'm buying it from, and I want to support them. I know the birds. Like one of my friends said, he's a vegetarian most of the time. So the reason he is because he doesn't like animals being harvested. And he feels that these animals have lived a good life, and he feels better about eating them.
Yeah.
They've lived a good life. That's a humane treatment of the animal. I find it tastes better. It has a little more flavor. One of the reasons people often complain about turkey is it doesn't taste like anything.
Yeah.
you know?
And I think in your story, I forget the percentage, but you said like the grocery store turkey is at least 20% salt water.
Yeah, they inject it to make it, it's their way of brining the turkey.
Yeah, but then ultimately ends up over salting.
It can be over salted.
And then that's how it gets
and
fried.
you're paying that 50 cents, $2, $3 a pound for water.
Yeah. And why do you think, I feel like it's every year, I think you and I were just talking about it. Myers, they're selling
turkeys for 49 cents a pound. You're allowed one. But it's probably a loss leader. They're probably not making money on it, but they get you in to get your turkey, and then you're going to spend the rest of your grocery money in their store.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
No, which totally makes sense that wise. But I also, it's like almost a competition every year to get them cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And it's like, okay.
That's gross.
Yeah. Like it ultimately is really gross. And I think something that we learned just from like seeing these turkeys living and stuff, it's like, it's so different. Even the way that they're like built, like these farm factory turkeys and chickens, they can't walk because they genetically modify the breasts to be so big that they can't hold, the legs can't hold up. It's like literally a deformed, it's crazy. Gross. And that's what you're eating. Like, so
it's not as healthy because when we were at we were at Wholesome Valley Farms with Trevor Clatterbuck, who owns Ohio City Provisions too. And the turkeys were able to run around. They were able to get muscle tone. That's another thing that affects the texture of your turkey. It's not spongy. It's actual meat. And once you've tried both, you'll feel the difference. You'll be able to tell.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, outside of Ohio City Provisions, I think a few other farms you mentioned were Trapp Family Farm, T Hills Farm, the Farmer's Rail, Farmer Jones, Oxbow Orchards. There
are many places you can get them. You need to get in early because sometimes they get sold out, and you have to usually reserve them with a fee. And then go pick them up because they're not going to be shipped to you. That would cost even more.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then outside of, if you're not somebody who cooks or whatever, if you want to show up at a restaurant or something, for example, how would you recommend people find locations or restaurants that are offering pasture-raised turkeys on their menu?
That's a tough one.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's probably less just because of scale and price. I mean, especially for a restaurant. Like Paris was saying, like these other turkeys, like, I mean, it is just end up being more cost effective. But I think the Farmer's Rail, they have a restaurant, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So probably places like that. But I think really, if you're going to eat a pasture-raised turkey, it's probably from a home chef who cares and is willing to kind of spend the money to treat everyone to a better bird. Because, I mean, I also think if you're having a 30, 40 person Thanksgiving, it's hard to justify this for that many people.
But if you're having a smaller family and it's only once a year.
Exactly.
You know, it's just once a year. So it's a little bit of an event. Now, if you are on a budget and you really don't want to and can't do it, you can do the Meyer Turkey for Less, or Aldi's has a program where theirs are a lot cheaper as well.
Yeah.
So not saying you have to, but if you can, why not?
Yeah, no. And like you said, supporting the family farms, the neighbors,
keep the money in the community.
They're having better flavor. It's more environmentally friendly. Like there's so many reasons to just, I feel like we get on this podcast every week and just tell everybody to go shop at the farms around them. But it is true. Like
support local.
It tastes better. Like full stop. I will argue that it tastes better. So,
at least it's healthier for sure.
Well, 100%. Yeah. So, have you ever made a turkey for Thanksgiving?
I have not made a turkey for Thanksgiving. I wouldn't even know the first step. If it came with a kit with instructions, I wouldn't be able to follow it because I don't even know what's what looking at it.
But you, Paris, made both.
I made both to compare them.
Yeah, a regular grocery store and a pasture-raised.
I did.
When you were cooking them, did you have to like approach cooking them differently?
You do. You have to cook the farm-raised pastured turkey less time.
Oh.
I noticed the differences. Even like the skin was different when it came out. The farm-raised was just better.
Yeah.
It was crispier and it wasn't as fatty.
But you like prepared them similarly?
I prepared them the same to kind of be scientific.
Yeah.
And before I forget, I want to remind people to make stock with the carcass. The farm raised carcass makes stock that's 2 or 3 times better than the other carcass.
Yeah.
Probably going into the not so healthy side of this conversation, the snack daddy Stefan Johnson, I think, right? He recently did a review of, I think it was a Popeyes turkey. Apparently, you can go on Popeyes website and order a frozen turkey that's like seasoned, or it's already cooked, it's pre-cooked, but I think you like warm it up essentially. And apparently it wasn't too bad, but it just reminded me of that. And I just wonder how it's going to be.
People do get crazy with the Thanksgiving. I just had last week, Ohio Pie Co. pizza shop. They have locations in Rocky River and Brunswick, but they do a Thanksgiving pie. And it's like, they're not throwing lunch meat turkey on it. Like they roast turkey just to put on these pizzas. And I swear, like, I think a lot of the Thanksgiving stuff can be really gimmicky. That was like a delicious pizza. It was so good. But I think sometimes it is. Like, I think I saw, I don't know if it was like Potbelly or one of the big sandwich places is like selling the Thanksgiving burger kind of looking thing. And it's like, we're just getting a little off the rails. But no, Thanksgiving, it's crazy. It's already coming up, but start to think about what you're going to serve and maybe consider a pasture-raised turkey if you can afford it. So.
Okay, so on the note of Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving meals, you recently wrote a story about a pretty cool sort of way to give back around Thanksgiving that a local comedian is sort of pushing. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so local comedian Ricky Smith, he's known for RAKE, which stands for Random Acts of Kindness Everywhere, kind of very just generally a person who seems to like to do a lot of giving, but he was kind of thinking and he's like, okay, with RAKE, they used to do Thanksgiving meals with the Salvation Army. COVID kind of took that away. And then his friends have been saying, oh, we want to bring it back. We want to bring it back. But he was kind of thinking about how to make it different. And he realized, which I think we talked about last year on the podcast, but the Wednesday before Thanksgiving is now like an unofficial drinking holiday. Like we call it Blackout Wednesday. It's this whole thing. But he's like, it seems weird that there's not a holiday any time of year, but especially around Thanksgiving, that's all about giving food. So he's trying to make the Tuesday before Thanksgiving dedicated as Mealsgiving. And so the inaugural Mealsgiving will be November 26th. But the whole idea is whether you're a huge restaurant or an individual person, like to connect with people by giving food. So he reached out first to Cordelia, and they're going to be doing a huge event serving like 1,000 meals on site and 1,000 meals delivery to first responders, veterans, the unhoused population.
Now, are these meals like developed, created by Cordelia? Like, is it Cordelia?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes. No, well, yeah. First, Ricky reached out to Cordelia and was like, hey, what do you think about doing a lunch? And apparently, Andrew Watts, one of the owners of Cordelia and Vinny, they were like, no, let's just close the restaurant and do a whole party. So it's like DJs, Mayor Bibb's going to be there, like a whole thing. They reached out to the city to get connected with these different groups. But then after that, he started hearing from a lot more restaurants, and he's kind of encouraging them all to like do your own thing, whether it's that day you give out a bunch of meals for free, or you and I go to a pizza shop and pay for 5 pizzas for the next person, or you make cookies for your neighbor. It's just kind of about giving. So it is a organized effort. Like you can reach out on the mealsgiving.org, I think it is, to volunteer, because Ricky is definitely looking for people to deliver different meals across the city that day. But also just in the spirit of Mealsgiving, like share a meal with somebody and use the hashtag on social media. Like he's even talking to Mayor Bibb about making it an official holiday in Cleveland, because he was talking about it and I was like, it's so no-brainer. Like we have Left-Handers Day or National Cupcake Day, and it's
MGK Day.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I don't know. I think Thanksgiving, and he also talked to this too, when you realize that I think when you get older, it can be a really lonely time, like the holidays, and especially for certain people. And I just think sometimes you focus on, we got to make this for the parties and the potlucks and all this. And it's like, what about just feeding people you know or you don't know who are your neighbors for the sake of doing it? So
people connect over food. I mean, we know that here on DineDrinkCLE, the podcast, right? And then on top of that, you got to keep in mind that there's certain kinds of people out there that are just hurting financially, that this is just so important for them. I know that you have places like Salvation Army that, specialize in this, and they do this regularly, but, to have an organization like Cordelia, to have Mayor Bibb at this party function where it's not like, here's a handout. There's some, stereotypes that are associated with, giving back or accepting.
No, that's something
sort of
Ricky
like
mentioned
that.
too. He's like, we're not like shuffling people through a line and giving them a plate. Like, we want them to hang out. We want them to have like this community food event.
I love that. I love that. And I love how he's able to not just get Cordelia on board, but what were some of those other names for those other restaurants?
I think Zanzibar, House of Creole, Cocky's Bagels. There's a few places who are doing their own kind of some kind of efforts with it. But I do just think it should be like, especially he wants it to be obviously outside of Cleveland, but I think we've talked about it too. Cleveland is like such a great size community to be big enough to do really cool things, but also feel grassroots and connect with other people really easily. So it would be really cool if this ends up being a big thing. Then it's like, oh, it came out of Cleveland. Like, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, but so Mealsgiving Tuesday, November 26th. I would follow them on Instagram to see all the cool stuff they're doing. But also, in the spirit of that day, just try to do something, give back, pay it forward, feed someone in your life. And if you want, share it with the hashtag Mealsgiving. And I think Ricky and the whole community would really like to have this inaugural year be super special.
And like you said, if you wanted to get involved with it, go to mealsgiving.org, and there's plenty of opportunities for you to do that. So
happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, are you there? You kind of look like you like pie. Do you like pie?
Do you happen to like the Great British Baking Show?
Well, do we have an event for you?
The Great Grog Bake Off, the 3rd edition, is happening November 19th at the Grog Shop, and Josh and I will be your hosts. So amateur bakers will be competing to see if their pies can outbeat their other amateur bakers.
Yeah, so we'll be there to look cute, have fun, as we do here on the podcast, but in person. So we want to get to see you and have fun and joke around and sort of crown the next Grog Shop baking king or queen.
Yeah. And taste a lot of pie. So make sure you go to the Grog Shop's website to buy your tickets if you want to be a spectator/sampler, or if you want to sign up to participate to bake. So November 19th at the Grog Shop. See you there. And now we're joined by Pete Chakerian. Hi, Pete.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So you recently wrote a Classically Eats column about buckeyes, which might be Ohio's favorite chocolate candy. Tell us a little bit about what a buckeye means to you.
Well, I love buckeyes. I grew up with them. My grandma Molly made them for us when we were all little kids. So me and my brother and my cousins all got these wonderful treasure troves of buckeyes, which are essentially like peanut butter truffles if you've never had one before, although I can't imagine you haven't. So peanut butter filling, nice chocolate ganache on the top. Sometimes people put Rice Krispies on the inside of them or other kinds of things to give them texture. Cornflakes is another one that they will incorporate in there to give it a little crunch. So I grew up with those, and I am glad to say that was one of my fond food memories from being a little kid, and I'm glad that it is carried forward as sort of a Cleveland tradition. Yeah,
and why do you think it's just because like they look like the Buckeye seeds that Ohio loves them, or why do you think it is like such a Ohio Cleveland thing?
I really think that's the gist of it. It looks like a Buckeye. Obviously, Buckeyes are of major significance in the state of Ohio, so I think people sort of feel bonded to those candies just from the get-go.
And do we know what their actual origin story is? Like, where are they from? Like, actually, literally. Do we know?
I don't necessarily know that there's a formal origin story. I think like a lot of these Classically Eats stories, a lot of people lay claim to being the originator of something and may or may not be. So I'm just going to let that mystery be.
Yeah. Gotcha. I think something that stood out in your story that made a lot of sense is that I think you said your grandmother would not fully submerge the peanut butter ball in chocolate, so it wouldn't look like a Buckeye, right? But it tastes better. And I think that is because the outside part of the peanut butter is kind of always weird.
I agree. It sort of dries out. It gets to be a
Yeah.
little different texture, I think, than what's on the inside. And she just really didn't do them that way. She preferred to have them dipped all the way around so that they sort of were sealed up and that the contents on the inside would kind of stay, moist and soft.
Yeah. No, I think that's smart, but it is like, I'm sure if you give that to so many Ohio people, they'll be like, that's not a Buckeye because it doesn't look like a Buckeye.
Yeah.
But
Well, and that's another one of those things too. Everybody does them just the slightest bit different. So, even though you're dealing with something that's a tradition, there are a lot of traditions within that tradition and under that umbrella that different folks sort of incorporate.
And I gotta give you some flowers for your headline on this story too, because it was so perfect. It was like, what was it? OHIO my waistline.
Apology.
Apology, thanks to the Buckeyes or whatever. I love that because I think everybody has like a snack or something that growing up they probably ate too much of. Someone should have stopped them, and they probably feel like to this day they would be like actually like a healthy individual if it weren't for that one thing. So for you it seems like a sweet, but for me experiences like that are kind of bitter sweet.
Yeah.
It is funny though. I think that is probably the thing because it was the gateway drug, I think, to a lot of other chocolates with peanut butter in them that I also tend to like because of that sweet salty thing. We've been around that barn in past podcasts before, but yeah.
What's another like chocolate peanut butter treat that you would like say is a contender against Buckeyes or maybe better?
A cup.
Or less? A Reese's cup?
Yeah, like a peanut butter
Peanut
cup.
butter
Yeah, I'm
cups.
saying like would you put that like in terms of how good it is? How would you put that next to it?
I
How would you
don't
grade
know.
them?
I think that a peanut butter cup is probably like a consolation prize if you can't actually get a Buckeye. Although,
See, I think I like them better.
do you do? Tell me why.
Because it's harder chocolate. Like sometimes a Buckeye's too soft.
Okay.
Like I like when it has like a crackle. Like you know what I mean? Like a truffle edge or outer coating. I guess.
It's like crisp. Like there's a slight crunch.
But
to
I
it.
don't know.
I always thought that there was a missed opportunity for peanut butter cups to not have a layer of jelly in them, like peanut butter and jelly cups. Why has that not become a thing?
No.
No, that's a good idea.
I don't know. I mean, I see it.
With white chocolate.
I do see it, but for me, it's a no. For me.
Hater.
Gosh.
I also, something your story reminded me of too was I think it's funny that, like, sorry, Mom, but my mom is not a cook. She's not a baker. She literally can't make most things.
That's fair.
But every Christmas, she'd be like, oh, we're going to make chocolate. Like, it's like you said, your house turned into a confectionery around the holiday season. And I think it is funny how it is a tradition for so many people to you get out the molds and you melt the chocolate and you think it's going to be so fun. And then you make a mess and then everything kind of looks ugly. But then you still do it again next year, you know?
Well, I got to do it with my grandma a couple of times like that. And then after a while, she's kind of like, I think I'm just going to do this myself. I was a little bit too little, I think, at the time to appreciate just how much work and how much mess went into making those things. But boy, oh boy, having them for Easter and for Christmas was just the best.
Do you ever get any store-bought that are like, oh, this reminds me just the way my grandma used to make it? No. Yeah.
No. Some things are just, they're lost to the mists of time. Even if I make my grandmother's recipe, it's never quite the same. And I've tried.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I guess if you're not going to make them yourself, I feel like there's so many places that have Buckeyes. Like every chocolate shop in Northeast Ohio, if you don't have a Buckeye, it's probably.
Do you have a go-to?
Yeah, what's your favorite that besides making them?
I am equal opportunity on those. They're all very different in very different ways. Some of them are soft. I tend to find that it's, again, a consolation prize a little bit when you don't get that sort of crackle of the chocolate on the outside, that it's almost like a magic shell or something. It's got that sort of light, crisp crackle to it. Most of them that you find in the stores have got a softer thing going for them.
I think Mally's does pretty good on the...
Mally's are good.
Because I think they put like a different kind of peanut butter on the outside to make it like the shell, but then the inside peanut butter is still soft. It's not like it's peeking out. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is like scientific.
Yeah.
It is.
And these are one of those snacks where it feels like they should be illegal almost, because you can't just sit down and have like one or two. Like it literally is impossible. Like you have to like keep going and going until someone stops you. Am I wrong? Is that just me?
No, I think you're just thinking about your...
Oh.
No, Josh,
Josh wants a sidetrack. Josh wants Uber Eats to block him from the app because he can't stop ordering on Uber Eats, and he deletes the app and he keeps re-downloading it, and he thinks he spent $1,000 in like 6 weeks.
There's not a lie that's been said here. I'm not proud of it. I am very ashamed. So
you have no self-control. You can't. You said they should be illegal, not I'm gonna eat 2 buckeyes. No, they need to be illegal.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna agree with you on this though. There is something back to the original point that I think that peanut butter and chocolate sort of trips a switch somewhere in there, and pretty soon you just find yourself eating them to the point where you could get sick on them. Yeah. They're wonderful. They're wonderful though.
Yeah. But in Buckeye ice cream, you get the mini Buckeyes and you make like chocolate chip cookies with them. There's so many ways to have fun with them. Thanks so much for listening to or watching DineDrinkCLE the podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at DineDrinkCLE and subscribe to our newsletter at cleveland.com/newsletters.